Hey, thanks for tuning in to episode 1 of Ask Rob. This is my new series where I take questions from people on the internet and answer them as best I can. The response to Ask Rob has actually been kind of crazy. I've gotten a few months of questions already and I can effectively answer all of them. I got a really good question, for instance, yesterday about Ebola, and that's a really topical thing, and there's a lot of people thinking about it and worrying about it right now. I'm not going to cover it this week because I don't really have time. Definitely keep the questions coming, and I will get to that one sooner rather than later because it's super important and we're all thinking about it. So the first question that I'm going to answer on Ask Rob is, this question has to do with small businesses. So this question, which is from an anonymous source, is wondering what % of small businesses close within a year of opening. They point out that they notice certain locations in the city of Ottawa, and though this applies more broadly, that basically can't seem to hold any one business. So they mentioned a place that was a pizza place, it was then a coffee shop, and then it's a fitness studio, even in the last 4 or 5 years. So they want to know why this kind of location can't succeed. If it's the location, if it's the business, if it's something about the management. And so I did some research into the topic, and it turns out it's somewhat common sense. There are a lot of people who don't really know. It's sort of like having a kid. There are a lot of people that don't know the kind of work that has to go into a business before starting one. And so they get in, they get a loan, or they have some money put away, and they start and they get in over their head rapidly, and they just decide it's not for them, and so they stop. And so the rate of small businesses that fold after the first year the most accurate that I was able to find was about 60% of small businesses, which is about 1 in every 2. Now, we all have a place in our city, in our neighborhood even, that is exactly like this. They will open, maybe there'll be even some fanfare, a launch event, that kind of thing. There'll be promotions, but quickly thereafter, it just sort of shuts, it slows down a lot, and it stops being such a big deal, and then within a year, they have sold it and they've moved out. These places, these restaurants, these storefronts, whatever, they actually have a name in the industry, and they're called dog locations. So it can be something as simple as there not being parking anywhere nearby. If it's an area that's not heavily foot trafficked, it can be something as simple as not having a very visible facade, not having any signage. It can just be a bad location for the type of place it is. If you're in sort of a more upscale neighborhood where everyone's driving around and nobody is really walking, if you have maybe a corner store, a convenience store that isn't something big like an Esso or Petro-Canada, you're not going to get a lot of foot traffic because nobody's walking. So there's a certain amount that goes into knowing your market. So you can be really excited about opening this restaurant, but if you're serving a type of food, or if you're serving a class of person, for instance, you wouldn't want to open a fancy restaurant in student housing or in an area that's right near a university, because nobody there is going to be able to afford what you're selling, and the people that can aren't going to want to go there. Now, there are also lots of entrepreneurs that will see this as an opportunity or as a challenge, and they'll try to make a business succeed, and they'll try very, very hard to make a business like a restaurant succeed in a place where businesses before have failed. And so one of the things that tends to be most successful is having specials, having promotions, doing lots of advertising through word of mouth. Basically, the story that I got from experts is that there's no such thing really as a bad location, assuming that you can open a business in a location and have it succeed. Obviously, unless you're out in the middle of nowhere where there's just nobody going by. But it takes the right kind of business in the right place. And so you can have a great business, but if it's in the wrong place, it'll fail. So I hope that answers your question. About 60% of businesses fail in their first year. And there's a variety of reasons that a business like that could fail, and could fail over and over again, because it's just not the right kind of business for that location. You can send your questions, if you have your own, to askrob@robattrell.com. You can also visit me at my blog, which is at blog.robattrell.com, and you can find a link there to submit a question. I'm hoping to do this every week. I've had lots of really great questions that are obviously going to take more than a week of lead-up time, so I'll be working towards those bigger projects. But for the time being, thanks for tuning in to Ask Rob, and I'll see you next week. Bye.